He shoots into the corner and takes off. He goes right. It looks off. The D sees him cutting down the line. Bounce pass up, under, wham, wham. Denied. I am Coach Ron, the one and only. I'm 53 years old, and I played football and baseball for 14 years. When I left my career in Hampton, I got severely depressed. Therapy helped me understand that life has value when you identify your value. My value was coaching. I got a master's. I've been coaching since 1994. Helping young people has been so stimulating, exercising my ability to coach, to teach, to reinforce the positive. I've got to incentivize my people.
I came to the world famous Skid Row in 2008, going through the trauma of divorce. I moved out of the house and ended up here in world famous Skid Row. Once I got here, it made me conscious of the luxuries I had all my life and how this is so narcissistic and so prideful. I didn't even understand that my life was based on this until I became homeless.
Sometimes we don't seek the opportunities that the journey of life presents for us to go through. That's what I had to understand. Here in the world famous Skid Row, it was clear. I had to do something that was greater than me. I had to do something that was going to benefit society.
Once I understood that being in world famous Skid Row wasn't the end of my social life, I noticed how social it was. I mean, it was really active. Kids are here, women. It's a full-blown community. But why is it so filthy? I mean, why is it so unhealthy? It's killing people. Man, it hurt me to the core of my being.
Believe it or not, the majority of this trash and filth was coming from the do-gooders, the believers, the churches. These were the people who were bringing all this filth. Wow. And these people live like this? Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, all these do-gooders just giving and giving. It was a sea, trash all the way into the sidewalk. It would go over the curb line. The do-gooders weren't thinking.
Too many people are so empty. When we are providing charity, our hearts are not real. Even though we're feeding and repurposing clean clothes and coats and jackets, we're empty. So what you are giving is received with emptiness. And it is not given with love. It's not received with kindness and courteousness and compliments.
Let's do something. I was proactive in engaging them, asking them to be responsible for their charity, and I got a response that was so negative, I only had one choice, to do something about it. And when I was seeking that, praying for that, I met OG.
He had a funky trash can campaign, man, and it galvanized me to say,
this is something I can put my resources to.
I arranged to meet with OG.
Just let me know your vision for the funky trash can.
So he explained it to me and I was on board.
The vision was two-pronged, placing trash cans and then outreach. He was doing awareness campaigns to communicate to the people on the streets the need to not create bonfires, the number one issue with Central Division. That's why they removed all the trash cans from the community.
By doing outreach and meeting the people in the tents and meeting the community residents and the tourists, I got to meet all the stakeholders.
Do you want trash cans?
Do you want the community to be clean?
Do you know how unhealthy the streets are for our homeless community?
It brought me so much joy to understand that so many people wanted to help. Then we started cleaning up. OG, myself, General Jeff, and Blaze. A lot of the community members got on board.
I brought a lot of resources from the Pasadena-Altadena area. We got about 20 trash cans. We got chains, locks. We put them up on both sides of San Julian from 7th to 5th. We put trash cans on San Pedro. And we put them from San Pedro on 5th all the way up to Wall. We maintained them. We got the community involved. We made block captains and gave the community keys to the locks.
It got the attention of Central Division. OG didn't have no fear of the police. I didn't either. but I was new. So I let OG do all the talking.
The police had their eye on us. Me and OG, General Jeff, making sure we had no participation in the underworld economy.
This was in 2008. It was very, very, very challenging to communicate to the government, the mayor, to our local politicians. It was really funny because OG was accustomed to being aggressive. This was where we worked so good together because you got to get their attention, but then you also have to be able to formulate a clear plan that they can agree on, and that's what I wrote.
And if the community says, look, then all the politicians listen. And if you had a clear plan, they would review it. I mean, if it was doable, they were supportive, and you can't oppose that. I mean, I couldn't. I know those others probably could. And I think that's what separates me from them, because I can't oppose you helping our blood homeless community. I can't oppose that.
I tell my supporters that I'm a believer, and a lot of them don't believe what I believe. But I can't be angered by anyone who wants to help our blood homeless community. You want to help the people? Help the people. I'm for that. I'm being inclusive when it comes to helping our homeless community because they need everybody.
I started the Fun Zone Reading Club for the homeless kids at the Huntington Hotel on 8th and Main. In 2008, there was a lot of kids here. A lot of hotels were filled with families, and there really wasn't a place for the kids to play in the community. I started the reading club teaching adults and kids how to read. After school, we had a lot of fun. We provided the kids with toys and skateboards and books and backpacks, candy, ice cream, birthday parties, and building open air libraries. Officer Joseph, he read out loud to the kids. We had the fire people. It was really a good time for the kids because we had so many joyful people come and read and instill joy in them.
But we had some elected officials like Jan Perry who had a public policy, no kids in Skid Row.
Hey, Coach, from this point on, we don't want programs for kids here on Skid Row. We want to get the families out. Any families you give us, we will give them a voucher right on the spot and move them out.
And that's what we did. We got all the families out of the Huntington and Ford hotels. We must have got about 350 families out within a 6-month period. And that's why you don't see kids here at all.
When Jan Perry was in office, it was an $850 fine to feed people on the street. And we supported that. She said,
we would like to see you guys do outreach to get those food lines off the street. Get them to go into the park where they can feed in a much more human way and reduce all the waste that's on the street.
Within a 2-year period, we went from cleaning the streets to cleaning up the Voa Drop-In Center. And once the CRA was dissolved, we received the keys from the city of Los Angeles to manage and operate the world famous Gladys Park. We've been in the park since 2011.
When we got in the park, once again, we had a whole bunch of tension with Central Division. We had to deal with the same perception that we were part of the economic underground. Once again, we had to help them understand we're not a part of that.
One of our main services in the park is the world famous Skid Row 3-on-3 Street Basketball League. After that, we started feeding people. We do book drives, we do Christmas activities. We always do a major holiday event in the park. A lot of times people say,
hey, Coach, we see you do a lot, but we never hear much.
We don't tell people because we don't want any of our services to be unmanageable. That's one thing Rec and Parks get on us about.
Hey, Coach, we want to put you guys on the calendar. We want to get our PR machine behind you.
No. There will be too many people. If you do that, we might not even have enough food. I like to set up for the regulars. That way we joyfully serve. We have more than enough, I tell them, get seconds and thirds. Whenever you leave, you should fall asleep.
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. We do a lot of barbecuing. It's part of my community. I tell people, I just reflect the community that I come from. Get it while it's hot.
Hey, I'm not against the mayor. I hate no politician because they gave us $675,000 to do the park. We got restrooms open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there ain't no gang members because we regulate the restrooms. So why are we angry at them for giving us what we want?
I want them to understand the way Skid Row Brigade clean the streets is. You have to hire everybody. We didn't have no barriers to clean the street. Our whole mission since 2009 is to use bathrooms, dustpans, brooms, trash cans, and trash bags as weapons of war.
For 8 months, from 6 to 10 a.m., I cleaned the streets up with OG and about 15 of the Skid Row Brigade. We wanted the city of Los Angeles and the Central Division to understand that the streets can be clean like Beverly Hills, but it can be safe too. It doesn't have to be uncivilized, unhumane. This is a community. We are civil. Tactically, we were going to address this.
We're going to sweep up whether we're black, white, Mexican, Asian, or female, or male. It just has to be somebody to clean the streets.
What's your name?
My name is Coach Ron, the one and only.
And what you doing?
We're cleaning up, man.
You getting paid for that?
No.
Okay. He ain't getting paid. Oh, well, you think I could use that broom after you? And where can I help you?
Today, my issue is the incorporation of the community in the cleanups and the beautification of world-famous Skid Row. They say, oh, you can't hire these people. It's always about incentivizing and compensating outside people. To me, that's just wrong. If opportunities exist, give them to the people here, so we can be a shining example of how you can help from the inside out and not always trying to help from the outside in.
The refresh spot is a great example. This all comes from our positive relationship with our mayor. I'm more about solutions. People always going to take what you do more than what you say.
I'm getting older. We need the streets clean, and I don't think it has to be me, General Jeff, or OG.
It just has to be somebody to clean the streets.
Hey, I'm not hanging up my gloves because my purpose is to help people as a joyful servant.
Homelessness, for some reason in LA, doesn't decrease. It just will not. I just need to do. When I'm not doing, I need to rest.
Coach Ron, you got any words?
Well, the only words I got is that I just want to make sure that the community is infused with enthusiasm of hope, and make sure I'm a bridge for all our joyful donors and volunteers to continue to support our beloved homeless people.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach Ron. Appreciate
You're
it.
The Voa Drop-In Center on St. Julian was starting around 2000, and I was hired not too long after they opened.
I have gotten clean and sober in this community, so I was connected to a lot of folks. I'm a strong advocate for recovery. At the VOA, we was doing health realization, looking at different approaches. Recovery behind the 12-step model, because recovery is a complex process. Health realization was looking at how people can change in their consciousness, then in their interaction with the community. And that's important. It's not always about personal responsibility. You know what I'm saying? What about the condition? I mean, there's enough responsibility to go around.
I was working with Leslie at the VOA, and it was fast and furious. The VOA Drop-In Center was designed for 800 guests, and from the beginning, it was just saturated with community members. Demand was off the charts.
There were a lot of people sleeping on the street, and one of the ways to address it was creating the drop-in center. You didn't have to be clean. You didn't have to be sober. It has a big courtyard and you could just walk in. It created a safe place. People who live on the street had a safe place to go to and access resources.
They had laundry service and bathrooms.
And they had cots if you wanted to sleep during the day.
Just to sleep or sober up.
Everybody there at the drop-in center had a story, lots of stories. I love talking with people. We trade stories and making friends.
Leslie had a big impact on the whole community.
I was pretty much known to everybody at the drop-in center. That's how I knew Kevin Michael, OG, Michael Blair, you know, ain't it?
My name is Kevin Michael Key. I'm from New York City. Leslie is too. She grew up living in New York. That's one big connection I got with her. Leslie was an awesome community organizer. Leslie was a mover and a shaker. I'm not lying. I was in love with Leslie. Everybody was in love with Leslie.
That's right, I'm OG, Manuel Capito, and I was in love with Leslie too. When Leslie wouldn't respond to my advances, I would go by the drop-in center every morning and say, she made me relax. It was funny. She was like,
Yeah, OG.
it's her. She made me relax.
At the drop-in center, we have a huge amount of foot traffic.
Yes, it was busy, 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 just like the refresh spot is now.
Because we had resources you couldn't get anywhere else, and the connection to the things that people needed.
At the drop-in center, we had access to recovery group meetings. We did a lot of group sessions. I was doing a lot of work to create a safe place where people felt comfortable talking about what the issue was and to focus on wellness and recovery.
But because of the traffic, they started to put restrictions on when you could go there. Originally, anybody could just walk in, go to the desk, and check in. But after a while, there was a lot of security and a screening process.
I started working with Yusef in 2001. Yusef was doing a street cleanup on San Julian. I was down with that, so I helped Charles Porter organize some of their first street cleanups. And I helped Charles connect with other programs and people, including OG, Kevin Michael, and Michael Blaze.
She liked the work we were doing, looking at communities and not just one-on-one service, but also changing systems, doing community organizing and engagement.
UCEP, United Coalition East Prevention Project, is a community-based drug prevention program. Our focus is looking at community and environmental factors that contribute to what they call now substance use disorder. We don't just look at alcohol and other drug problems as individual problems. We look at the role neighborhood conditions play in fueling addiction. And we engage community members to identify what the risks are, and then we work with them collectively to target those risk factors and to enhance the positive things that are happening.
Yeah, that's right. How can we impact the community? How can we hold the city accountable? And how can we expand resources?
When I started working with USAP in early 2001, the fastest growing population here in Skid Row was women and children. We had a couple of major hotels that housed a lot of kids, including the Ford Hotel, a block from our office. Kids started coming to the office, and they're the greatest organizers because each kid brings more kids and more kids. We end up creating an after-school youth program with art therapy.
I remember one of the young kids from the fort. He was at the office really early, and we lied.
What? What are you doing here? You should be in school.
He went to Carver Elementary School, and he is like,
I got sent home because my clothes are too dirty.
Zelene and I thought, okay, he's lying because he just wants to be here.
So Leslie and I stuck him in the car and brought him back to Carver Elementary. And then we spoke with the administrator, and he said,
We can't have him come into the school because he smells really bad.
And we are like, oh.
I was outraged. I said to Zuan, that's bullshit. And I wasn't going to let it go. And I didn't. I developed a whole campaign to shape up Los Angeles Unified School District.
We discovered that there were 15,000 homeless kids, students, within the LAUSD school district. But the school district didn't have any homeless liaisons to help the kids. And we had other kids from other schools coming to us saying,
I failed PE because I don't have money to pay for my PE clothes.
And we would document these incidents. Man, this is not happening. But it was.
So Cora and I organized a group of family from the missions. We got a bus and all the documentation and went to LAUSD board meeting.
We had to wait for 6 hours before we could speak. When we finally got an opportunity to talk, I leaned over to her and said, Leslie, please today, just do some poker face, okay? Because we got to get them to listen. She looked at me and smiled and whispered, that's bullshit. Then she really let them have it.
These families that live in the missions, the children have to leave each day at 5:30 a.m. And now we've been waiting for hours to speak. Shame on you, shame on you. How dare you, how dare you. We should be rewarding these young people who are somehow getting to school instead of putting all of these obstacles. This is outrageous.
Parent after parent talked about how their child wasn't being successful in school because,
well, my daughter doesn't have a backpack.
No uniform.
No tokens to get to school.
I mean, all of those things come so easily to some families. Our kids just don't have it.
And so after all the advocates and many meetings, the school board passed the Access for All resolution. We end up getting Los Angeles Unified School District to establish a homeless unit to provide backpacks and tokens for the students and the parents, and resources including counseling for the students in order for them to succeed in school.
We did it!
And this program
It still exists.
This program still exists.
I'm passionate about the education because I'm passionate about my own children. I grew up in a Muslim community. I had a Muslim birth name. I'm passionate about culture and very responsive to the diversity of community members. I want to make sure that people have the right to be who they are and that they respect their heritage and where they came from. That's why I'm passionate about education. I homeschool my daughter because I want to make sure that the curriculum really supports who the children are as a human beings.
I met my husband in Skid Row. We separated for a while. We both recovered in the community, and we got back together in Skid Row when I was in my recovery.
While I was working at USEP, we lived right across the street from Exposition. But then we moved to Pico Union, and then we moved to Apple Valley to get better education for my children. For a while, I did the commute for 2 hours every day. But it was too much. I had to quit.
But I have a lot of love for this community and for the people who are here because they are a reflection of who I am.
As I said, Leslie passed away in 2019, and she's singing with the Angels, but we have Asia here. Asia, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you like to say something on behalf of Leslie?
I am honored, and it's a privilege to be here. However, there is nothing I could tell you that you don't already know, and nothing that I could say about my mother that would speak louder than something she wrote. So if you give me a minute, I'd like to read that for you. This was written probably very long time ago when she was younger, but it does speak very much to how she felt about the community she served and the world she lived in. It's entitled The Second Spring. We have familiar experience of the order, the consistency, the perpetual revolution of the material world which surrounds us. Frail and transitory are its parts. Restless and migratory are its elements. Still, it abides. It is bound by a law of preeminence, and though it is ever dying, it is ever coming to life again. Dissolution does but give fresh mode to organization, and one death is the parent of 1,000 lives. Each hour as it comes but a testimony. How fleeting, yet how secure is the great hall. It is like an image on the waters, ever the same, though the waters ever flow. The sun sinks to rise again. The day is swallowed up in the gloom of the night to be born again in the dawn as though it had never been quenched. Spring passes into summer and through autumn into winter, only the more surely by its own ultimate return to triumph over that grave toward which it is resolutely hastened from its first hour. We mourn the blossom of May because we know there are to wither, but we know that one day May will have its revenge on November by the resolution of that solemn circle that never stops, which teaches us in our height of hope ever to be sober, in the depths of our dissolution never to despair.
Wow.
Wow.
Powerful. Thank you, Asia.
I am Angelina Harper, also known as Big Mama. I was Danielle Turbert when I was in the cabaret circuit. And I can sing anything, blues, jazz, R&B, and I did comedy. I would have the audience ask me a question, and I would come back with an answer.
If you wanted to have another life, what would it be?
It would be sitting here with you. I know there's a lot of women in here hating on me because they can't get as fine as this.
Sometimes it was a little bit risque.
I know a lot of men is looking, and you ain't looking at my face.
I traveled with a lot of groups of comedians during the 80s and the mid-90s. The circus went from north to south, East Coast to the West Coast. I was managing strippers at one point.
I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I am 59 years old. I was born 1960, November 24th. I have a son that's 42 years old, and I have two daughters, Sharon and Kanaya. And since 1979, I have lived between Chicago and New Orleans. And here, I was in food service. My father had a restaurant in Chicago at 74 Halston named Maria's. He named it after his mother.
I thank God for my great-grandmother. She passed away when I was 14. And we found out that she was 117 years old. We found a record at a church in Mississippi. She never knew her parents. The lady that raised her didn't have a last name. Her only name was Lucy. She was a slave.
I learned a lot of my cooking from my great-grandmother. We grew our own vegetables. I had aunts that raised chickens and ducks and goats. Our family had horses. She believed in sustainability. You had to learn how to mend the fence. If the fence fell off, you better find a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, and a screw. From watching my father and cousins, I learned how to do drywall, mud work, plaster, bricks, all that.
My life was not normal in any sense, okay? I have aunties that didn't have any children, and they were sterilized. It was shocking to find out we were experimented on.
We are still suffering systematic racism. We are still getting told what we can have or can't do. But back then, it was far worse. At 5, I saw a person hang from a tree. I have seen grown men with their own businesses put their head down because they weren't allowed to look into a white person's face.
I had a great aunt that lived in the Bible Belt of Louisiana. I would go down there from Chicago as a teen, and I would do her hair. 2 white ladies sent their husbands to say,
"You need to tell that gal to come out here so she can do my wife's hair."
I guess I'm trying to get hung, strung up, healed, or whatever. Number 1, I ain't your gal. I have a name. And number 2, I ain't from here. And if your wives want their hair done, they need to come down here and have money for me to do their hair.
They left. My aunt never heard or seen from them ever again.
the first time I came out here was due to Kalaya's father. He tried to kidnap her. I hit him in the head with a brick. I came out here because I had a domestic violence charge. We stayed at the Union Rescue Mission. We was in there exactly 10 days. I couldn't do it.
No
way. No way.
No way I'm gonna deal with bickering, uncutting, sneaky, or the whole 9 yards.
We left the mission and I was asking everyone,
where can I go to get this kind of help?
Nobody could give me a definite answer. So I was on my own. And I got what I needed. We ended up living on San Pedro. I got my kids. I went back to school. And I opened up my own catering business.
I was doing fantastic. Then Sharon's father decided he wanted to start shooting at me. I retaliated and I went through the same scenario that I went through with Kanaya's father.
I need to keep myself from constantly having to go through the same thing over and over again.
I talked to some spiritual women and they gave me some good advice. Mhm.
You need to see a therapist.
You know what? You need some counseling for domestic violence.
Because I was having dreams of dressing up like ninja and going back to Chicago and finishing what I had started.
Then I found peace over violence. I found my way back to who I am and realized that the great creator had a plan already set out for me. I started looking within myself on not being so forward. Usually, I would speak the first thing that came to my mind and injured a lot of people. I had to start thinking.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to tear anybody down. I prefer to build somebody up and help them.
Now, every day I wake up and when I do my prayers, I make sure that I start smiling.
Truly, I am grateful. I start coming back to Skid Row because some of the women that I was in the shelter with needed help. They couldn't obtain a place to live. I had to sit each one of them down individually.
Now I got to give you a life skill class, and I got to find out all these resources for you. So that's what I started doing.
Then I got my OGN service. I started working with Barbara, doing art in the park every Easter with the kids. She got sick, and then it was just me. Last year, it was 15 years.
Damn, I've been doing it that long? I need to pass this on to someone else, way younger.
There are people who want to get out of Skid Row, and they can't. They need help. Social service tells them,
"You got this voucher."
But social service didn't help these people get to where they need to be before they got the voucher.
They got bad credit.
We got no money saved up.
Convictions, evictions.
No way of knowing how to go about it, even with the voucher.
You still got to tell them you got to pay your rent.
But this is an SRO.
some people, when they get to SRO, they think that somebody is going to pay their rent.
I didn't pay none, and now I'm back out in the street.
You are not supposed to be getting evicted. Social service is supposed to put somebody in motion to find out why you can't pay your rent.
Are you having financial difficulties?
You having physical difficulties?
Are you having a mental health issue?
There are people who want to go to rehab and can't get in because there ain't no beds.
There are folks that were in a shelter, can't get in because there's no room.
They are people who want a place to live, but they can't find an apartment because they got something wrong.
Then there are landlords that don't want to take the voucher, period. They don't want Section 8. It's a constantly go around.
It's people like me.
It's people like me
in the cracks.
filling in the little cracks.
I know once I turn my phone on, it's going to be
Big Mama.
ding, ding,
Big
ding,
Big Mama.
Big Mama. Big Mama.
I do what I do because that's what's in my heart.
Or why'd you give that person $2?
They asked me. I don't know what they need it for. And quite frankly, they must have needed for something. No problem.
My issue is with those that don't help and they got the means too. I be around some folks and I know they got money, plenty of it. They were not share worth nothing. And then I watched them crash, and they asked me,
Hey, I really need some help now.
I will do this for you. First, you need to correct all that you damage. Then we can go from there.
What do you mean? I damaged?
The money that you took from the people.
asked you to get something to eat.
The people whose parents die, they need help to get to the funeral, and you say no because of greed and selfishness.
Big Mama! Our society has turned into a throwaway society and a me society. It's all about me and what I can get and do and have and keep. And if I don't need it, I'll throw it away.
I've never seen that many people over 50 living in Skid Row. 70% of them are down there, because their families threw them out, took their money, took their home, took their income, so I helped them.
Let's get you a lawyer.
Let me take you to the Department of Aging.
I can only do so many at a time. I'm just me. I do outreach, I give out hygiene kits. I try to have a table day on the sidewalk.
I try to do food at least once or twice a month because people can't eat what's in the mission and fast food. Some folks are straight vegan.
I'm praying that in time our world will change for the better. As long as men keep taking from the ocean and the earth, we ain't going to have a planet. I am also Native American. When the colonizers come to conquer, our ancestors said, it's fine the way it is. It's good. And if we have stayed the way it was, look at the bounty we could have.
That's true sustainability.
That's true sustainability.
Oh,
Hi, everyone.
I didn't know that. What's up?
What's up?
Ooh, you know what? I didn't know y'all was gonna go back that far. Some of them things ain't nobody business. Okay. But as far as me in this community, give me that stuff out that bag tonight. I'm only giving back what was lovingly given to me, the orange one. And I'm continuing to do so, but it's not just as in Skid Row, one of them packets down in here. In Skid Row, but I've been doing this summer everywhere. I've always been active in something or another due to the family that I come from. So that's how that goes. Still now, I'm still doing things like, now I'm doing this. Hygiene for women. I have some stuff for men. And I'm going to see if I can start partnershiping with Q since I've been told I'm on lockdown. I'm not supposed to come down on Skid Row for no reasons whatsoever. But some people know I'm going to make it way down eventually. Thank you for that presentation, my dear friend. Hey, yo. Thank you, Los Angeles Property Department. And I can't wait to catch the people that nominated me. Because, like, I really wanted this, right?
There'll be a lot of
I
kissing.
like being under the radar. But anyway, thank you, and congratulations to all the other participants and nominees. Okay. And my daughter is up to something.
Yeah, can I?
They want you to speak.
Hi.
Hey, Kanaya.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Danny. Hey, Charles.
Hi, Kanaya. Hi, Mama.
Go, Lorraine.
Hello, hey, Lorraine.
Hey,
Beautiful as
baby.
always.
And
Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie.
All right.
And everybody else. Hello. How are you all?
Hey, Tom. They baby.
I told
Asia, I haven't seen you since you were 15 years old.
Oh.
What you saying? Shh, don't let nobody know. Okay.
Like, yes, and how old I am.
Since she was a baby.
They're trying. Yeah. Okay, you just 18.
Only 18.
It's a blessing that I get to see all of you all.
Oh, hi, Jess.
Oh, God. You
And
got the whole
Christopher
house.
You can't
Yes,
see
y'all.
everybody, Kanaya. It's like 64
Okay, and they
people.
steady going, hey, Kanaya. Okay. Dad, me and you got to have a conversation. Because you getting the kind of, people are saying you my stalker. That's not good. That's not good, Daddy.
Just an admirer.
That's not good, Daddy.
Okay, thank you so much, Angelia.
Yes, and thank you all, and everybody tap into me.
Yes.
My name is Danny Park. My market has been on Skid Row for 28 years. Starting around 9-ish, a lot of my upbringing happened hanging out at the market, junior high, high school, and college. My family had relationships with our customers. Some were close to us. That shaped how I see the world.
I'm Andrew Kang. I'm a native-born Angelino. As a child, I would tag along with my mother. Much later, I realized my mother was pretty involved in organizing. She was always part of some kind of congregation, whether it be spiritual or cultural or the neighborhood. My mother is still active in the Road Church here in Skid Row.
Being a second-generation Korean American and knowing this market is a primarily Black community, the ongoing journey is, who am I?
My mom took me to places in Skid Row that I later found out to be LA Mission and Union Rescue Mission. The way Mother explained the world sowed the seeds for me to study psychology and gender studies in college. And that informed how I understood myself and other people, how our experience can be rooted in trauma and inform our new experiences.
I went to college and studied graphic design. About 5 years ago, I was working at Nike in Portland, but I was also flying back home about once a month to help out. My dad passed away, so my mom was running the market by herself. Because of my personal connection and love for the community, I moved back to Los Angeles, my home, and that's when I hit up Andrew. He's been my friend for a long time.
So one day I get the call.
Hey, I'm coming back to LA and I want to open up a coffee shop or a community space disguised as a coffee shop.
Often, spaces like that with arts and cultural programming, safe spaces, community centers, libraries, don't exist in neighborhoods that people call disenfranchised.
Andrew worked in coffee for a long time, and that's how it all started.
It's not just a drink. You don't just drink coffee for the drink. It's regimental. You wake up, have your coffee, and that can set the tone for the rest of your day.
So you're going to do it.
Or you can share your coffee with a friend. In the afternoon, at your favorite coffee spot, oftentimes people are gathering around something, and that commonality sometimes is coffee.
So are you on board?
I mean, I had an interest in how big coffee was in the world. It becomes geopolitical. At one point, coffee was the second highest traded commodity, and that is really intriguing.
So you're going to do it.
It has to do with the history of colonialism and African history, the birthplace of coffee.
So you want to give it a try?
I was like, yeah, I think I know enough, and that's good. So I could just drink coffee for the rest of my life.
But then Skid Row Coffee came up.
We went to a lot of community events. just to be present and listen and engage and just kind of see what it was. We met people at community events and met people one-on-one. One of the first people I had a meeting with was General Jeff. Our first event was at Gladys Park called Missing and Homeless. We brewed everything at Andrew's home with Chemex. We stayed up all night with a couple of buckets. We brought a table over and a couple of buckets of coffee.
Whatever people asked for, well, that led us to the next event.
Oh, this event is really happening?
It'll be cool.
So what are you doing?
Come if you want to serve coffee.
A lot of it was just being everywhere in Skid Row.
In the beginning, we didn't have a strategy or blueprints or a roadmap. The process created one. Pop-ups gave us the opportunity to be in the community.
We had hopes for a community space. We wanted to see what people needed, what people dreamt of. What are the spaces you are yearning for? All the answers were out there.
We were looking for a place in Skid Row, but everything we saw, well, either the price was out of reach or it just didn't have the infrastructure we needed. Then we saw this space at the library. I called them and they said it was available. And we just took it step by step from there. It's like, it happens, it happens.
We realized that one thing the community definitely needs is opportunities for jobs. So that was simple. The execution of it, not so simple. How do we go about creating dignified work? First, you have to understand where you come from. How do you structure it in a way that doesn't put people in a box or doesn't continue the same forces that are traumatic or oppressive?
But the shop also has to run. We exist within the system. It's impossible to fully employ this idyllic model of collaboration and cooperation. It's about finding a balance of how do we work together. That's when the job training came about.
Skid Row People's Market?
Skid People's Market. The market is different than Skid Row Coffee.
Skid Row Coffee. Great.
Skid Row Coffee.
People who work at the market have their shifts, but they don't have to be involved in the community or the meetings. In the beginning, I really wanted to politicize this. Now I've learned how to facilitate the space and the people. How do we understand power dynamics? That is very difficult, running a business. I mean, capitalism.
Last year was one of the hardest years for me. I've changed so much, I've grown. At the end of the day, I feel I have 3 square meals a day and a place to sleep. And please don't ask for more, just be humble.
You see things and you want to help, but not everybody wants your help. Everything has its time. Everyone has their own development process. I've been very privileged to have been put in this space where I own this business, manage it, and operate it.
Oh, and I have to bring up Javon Burnett. He was with us from the beginning. Now, he's no longer with us.
The team right now is a dream, truly a blessing. Some people are from within the community. Many are from different communities, all coming together. The cafe operates like a mom and pop shop. People in different positions have different responsibilities. Through conversations and meetings, we try to have an understanding of each other's work and the work at large. Everyone takes on what they can do best. You can come into the cafe, you can learn everything.
We are all passionate about food. Food is something we can all relate to. I mean, it becomes challenging when the relationship to food has been developed a certain way or limited to a certain thing. We come from different backgrounds. Can we all just enjoy the food that we're serving? Can we all be passionate about that? Or how do we design the menu? How do we convey that there is care in the food, that we care about the people receiving?
We convey that through doing the dishes diligently.
By doing the prep correctly.
Making sure the service is timely.
And the coffee recipe is on point.
We incorporate people's family recipes and cultural recipes into our menu. Last week, we had Jackie's grandmother's beef stew recipe, caldo de res. A customer was like,
Oh, this caldo de res. That tastes exactly like my mother made it.
These things really make the day go by. It's nice.
I work in market every day. We pay minimum wage. And that's not even close to a life here in Los Angeles.
We carry around 2,500 products. Last year, we added 80 more. We have an entire new deli bar with food that's made at the cafe. Hawaiian potato salad, roasted carrot salad, tuna salad. We have a big produce, fruit, and vegetable section. And we do a lot of events. See, that's the community aspect. We use the market space as a platform for local vendors, entrepreneurs. We have bake sales, food demos, pop-up parties, artists.
We have a huge credit system. I don't know if it's ever talked about, but it's something that my mom has done since forever. It's very basic. We have a notebook. And at the end of the month, lots of people are very short, and however much they need, we write it down. $60 store credit, or whatever, and then people can pay it back in a little bit of time, or whatever. It's good for them. That's a huge thing, kind of like microbanking.
The idea is that the money generated from this business goes back into the hands of the people who live in the neighborhood. So it's reinvested into the community. Oh, we have to give a shout out to my mom, Kanaya, Jess, Jackie. All these people are there every day.
I remember when the shop first opened, people were so excited and congratulatory. For me, we'd experienced the journey together, and it felt weird that money was directed towards us. We have built relationships like a family. I mean, as mushy as that sounds, but that was the only way any of this was possible.
So, Andrew, I see your picture. So do you have anything you want to add?
Hey, Tom, and everybody, thank you so much for that wonderful synopsis. Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to kind of contextualize, community folks that we work with and we are working in collaboration with include Jess Nazar, that I saw in the participants or in the spectator list. Kanaya, the daughter of Angela Harper, who I believe is next on the list. Jera, Sean, Patty, Will, previously Mark. I mean, there really are plenty of people, and I want to be specific about who are included, but I guess this is just entirely a humbling experience, and just want to share like one reflection that this was I guess a lot of my contemplations have been around place and me being an outsider to the Skid Row community and being embraced so openly by the Skid Row community over the last couple of years. I can truly say that, I feel in community and in the right place, even though times are constantly challenging what that means and like where place is. Yeah, I want to keep it brief. Thank you.
Danny.
Well, thank you. I just want to many people have been saying, like, where you're just kind of following the footsteps of so many people that's been part of this. And yeah, it's really like what we're doing is just, there's so many people involved, and Andrew had mentioned some of them. Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. I have to, give a shout out and thank you to my parents, my mom, who's been there for every day for 20 something years. Andrew's mom, Jess Nizar, we're surrounded by very powerful women and moms, and Big Mama and Kanaya, and like all of our employees or friends, volunteers, workers. And also I want to thank Pastor Q, Elisa Orduña, and Linda Lay, who's really, they've helped mentor, guide us, and continue to do so. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying being part of this. I'm like finding myself smiling too a lot, which is feel like I haven't been lately with all this stuff that's going on. And yeah, I guess I think of the something that Grace Lee Boggs said in relation to this being a work of resistance. And I'm just sitting here and feeling what we feel, and the helicopters outside. Everything that we're doing here reminds me of Grace Lee Boggs' quote: "A revolution that is based on the people exercising their creativity in the midst of devastation is one of the greatest historical contributions of humankind." So I'll just end with that. Thank you all so much.
My name is Stephanie Arnold Williams. They call me the governor of 5th and San Pedro. I live on the corner in a big tent, the White House. I take care of a lot of people. I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats.
I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. I have 1 girl, 2 boys, 8 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. I came to LA in 1991 to pursue a career in fashion. I'm 58 years young.
I went back to Indianapolis because my son wanted me to help him raise his child. Then my son was arrested for putting naked pictures on Facebook. And then we called the police because the family arguing about where my granddaughter was going to go. I thought the cops was going to come and help us out, but they said,
"We hate niggas, and we hate solving niggas' problems."
Oh man, I got the wrong cops in my house.
I'm going to break your fucking leg if you don't stop resisting.
She's resisting. Bam!
She's resisting. Boom!
He hit me on my head, my chest, my ribs, and then he threw me down and handcuffed me and said,
"She's trying to escape.
She's trying to get away."
And they broke my leg with their hands. They arrested me and threw me in the hole with the broken leg, back naked.
They said I was crazy. I had to use the restroom in the sewer hole.
and I wanted to get back at them. Because suing them, that was not going to work.
After getting out of jail, I went home and everything was gone. Do you know what it feels like to lose everything you have? I mean, your clothes, your shoes, your underwear, your furniture, the pictures that you've been saving forever. Wow. I'm homeless.
2013, I'm on Skid Row at 5th and San Pedro. Help!
But people came from everywhere. They came to the rescue.
What do you need?
Well, I need a wheelchair and I need clothes and a place to stay. How do you do this homeless thing? Guys, this pimp guy on the corner of 5th and San Pedro, he brought me a wheelchair.
I'll teach you how to get your tent. But you have to take it down during the day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'll watch over you because you got to have somebody to watch over you.
I learned about LA Kang. I took classes on knowing your rights. I made signs, I put them around my tent, and I got a whole lot of whistles, and I started passing them out.
And I started cop watch. Anytime we see a cop, we blow the whistle. And we say, cop on the block, cop on the block. Because they make us take down our tents every 2 weeks. I put my tent on the corner. That way, the only thing I have to do is move it around the corner.
I don't want to take down my tent anymore. I'm going to keep mine up. And I need some leaders to help me. Everybody here got to decide. You're going to keep them tents up. We're going to fight.
Just recently, I had a stroke.
One clean out day, I found myself going down, down, down. What's going on? My whole left side went out. Oh, let me pay somebody to finish my stuff, and I crawled my way back to my tent. Let me fall next to the phone, and I called my sister. She taught me how to heal myself.
When I decided to stay on Skid Row, I said, what can I do? I'm a designer by trade. I invented the interchangeable shoes for Stacey Adams. I got a clothing line. I got a lingerie line. And people come to my tent and they say, hey, inspire me.
You inspire me.
You can do it. You can do it. If you put your mind to it.
You can do it. You can do it if you put your mind to it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. You can do it. Do it. Do it.
You can do it. You can do it if you put your mind to it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Do it. Tents don't have floors. And when it rains, the water comes up through the plastic and it gets you all wet. So I thought of a roll-up linoleum hardwood floor. My tent looks like a real apartment.
I do free sewing for the community because I didn't come needy. I'm doing a talk show while you're waiting for your art integration. We talk about life on Skid Row. What are you doing here?
I need electricity. I went on Facebook Live and say, I wish I had this $1,500 solar panel that I cannot afford. I will charge the homeless cell phones. Also, I start free sewing classes. Homeless, reliable power source sewing. Their car pull it up on me.
What is that? That's a big box.
Well, ma'am, that's a $1,500 solar panel you ordered. The $1,500 one. No one could afford that one. But we got you that one because that's the one you want.
Wow. And most importantly, I provide chairs in the shade because, you know, it's against the law to sit down on Skid Row. It's called illegal logic.
Get out of that car and put your tent down.
Since you're planning my life, what should I do now? Stand in the sun and bake? The tent gives me shade and comfort. I don't have privacy. I just want to blow my nose. I might want to fart.
The cops lie. They say they're gonna serve and protect us.
I started tents up, houses down. You take your house down. brick by brick every day and build it up brick by brick. Try it out.
I just came up with a lie. That tent ain't mine. And it worked. If the cops say it's yours, then your answer is mine. And they say, put your hands behind your back, get up against the wall. And I thought, now that's the magic question. Just say no. And they'll walk away. I went down the block. When they come, just say it's not yours.
That ain't gonna work, Stephanie.
That ain't gonna work, Stephanie.
Stephanie, that's not gonna work.
Stephanie, that ain't gonna work.
That ain't gonna work, Stephanie.
Stephanie, that ain't gonna work.
Stephanie, that ain't gonna work.
That ain't gonna work.
Yes, it is. We're going to protest and we're going to win.
Cop on the block, cop on the block, cop on the block. The cops come by and they go knock, 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 knock. And everybody is outside their tents, standing against the wall. And they're saying, it ain't mine.
It ain't mine.
Not mine.
It ain't mine.
Whose is that?
That ain't mine.
Not mine.
The cops are scratching their head.
There's something fishy going on around here. Stephanie, I know that's yours. I don't know about them, but I know that's yours.
When did you know it was mine?
Yesterday when I saw you in it.
That was yesterday. Today it's my sister's. Tomorrow it will be my nephew and my cousin and my brothers. Because I ain't got no deed on it. You can't prove that it's mine. I get it away.
You want to play? Let's play. I went on the internet. Can somebody donate me a tent? The Wesley Center came in with 2 tents and they put their name on it. This belongs to the Wesley Center.
The Wesley Center got that for you?
Yeah, and the white one is for the church. And the orange one is for the kids that y'all put out of the Union Rescue Mission.
They walk away scratching their head, but now they leave me alone. They stole my sewing machine 3 times. They still have it. They make it very difficult for you to get your stuff back. Yeah. Officer Joseph says,
you can't sew on the street.
I don't have to sew. Can I protest on the street?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm a protester now.
Well, you got to get rid of them tables and chairs.
No, I need tables and chairs to protest. They can't tell me that I can't have any tables and chairs when you say that you're a protester. So I'm going to be a 24-hour protester now, and I'm never going to leave.
I came with the Skid Row Steppers, and I said, we're going to step for change. I made a big sign, real big, black and red. When the cops come around now, I dance instead of getting mad at them. Now I'm going to dance. Pooh, pooh, pooh.
The cops stand all around, and I'm like, are you here for the lap dance?
No.
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 I'm going to do lap dancing right here, and you are in my space. Can you move?
No, we're not moving.
No, we're not moving.
No, we're not moving.
We're not moving.
We're not moving.
We're not moving.
I'm really mad, and you guys are in my way.
Something snapped. Have you ever got violent? One of the tables was near my tent. And I took the table and I went, I got all the way to his neck. And then my hands wanted his neck. And I just wanted to shake him, but I stopped.
Ma'am, you can't do that.
Wait a minute. Y'all gonna shoot me?
Oh, guys, can you move? You make people violent. I wanted to strangle you right now. You see what you do to people?
The police take away all your bundle items that holds your tent down. I put Velcro around the floor and at the end of the curtain. And then you can tuck it underneath. And the Velcro, it's all the way around. That keeps the rodents out and the wind. On cleanup day, all you do is roll your floor up, un-Velcro your curtains.
I'm also a Skid Row landlord. I didn't want somebody to live next to me that I didn't know. So I formed my own community of people that I trust. I move in, I move out, I beat up. Did I say that? No, real bad. I just get a broom and I say, hey, get off my block.
I provide space for the pastor and the event. And the Skid Row Steppers are performing here. I'm the only member. All I gotta do is show up on the corner, get some red t-shirt, and pass out coffee, and everybody comes. Now you're a member. We do line dance. And we're stepping for change. It's time for change, y'all. We got to dismantle the system and start all new, because we're not going to survive in this system.
Every car that comes by, I think it's a cop. You know, cops come around and there's another body on the ground. The system did that. Cops did that. I think I need some therapy.
Skid Row is my life. It gives me a reason to wake up every morning. They're knocking on my tent the days I may not feel like it.
Hey, Stephanie, keep up the good work. Come on out and have a cup of tea with me.
I love Skid Row. This is where I want to be.
I sleep well. I create happiness. I also create my sleep. I make sure I have a great day. I sleep real good outside.
I'm gonna keep on smiling, regardless of how much pain there is. My smile goes a long way. And when I smile, somebody else smiles. I give myself a pat on the back and give myself a hug.
This year, I put my skates on after the cops broke my leg 7 years ago. I'll be on cop watch with my skates, and I chase cops. And let's say welcome to Stephanie. I'm glad you're zooming in.
Thank you. That was so great. Thank you. Los Angeles Poverty Department. Thanks everybody. Thank everybody that nominated me. I'm touched. I'm honored. Oh wow. This is a great day for me.
Hey, Miss Stephanie.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, people all over the world. My family in Indianapolis, Indiana, that I haven't seen in over 7 years. I took a stand 7 years ago to be a freedom fighter for the homeless. I'm a surviving victim of police brutality. They broke my leg in 2013 and I wasn't able to walk. and I've been in a wheelchair for over 5 years. I'm just starting to walk again. I'm starting to skate again. I'm able to get around again. I'm just blessed to be honored to be in this nomination today and tell my story. But I love my life here. I love my life in my tent. I love just being outside sewing for the community. I do free sewing every day. I've been making masks. I've been swamped doing masks. Sorry for everybody that I'm far behind in your mask, but I'm getting closer to it. Thank you, Terry. I see your comment.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Hey,
I'm
Terry.
speechless. You said about everything. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, right, but you do everything, Stephanie. We are so
I
grateful
do it all.
you're with us. Yes.
I want my T-shirt. This says the Skid Row Steppers.
That's great.
Steppers.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I'm here, I'm the founder of the Skid Row Steppers.
Yes.
And we're stepping for change.
Yeah.
And I'm here fighting against police brutality, police terror, and police killing. And that's what the Skid Row Steppers is all about.
Yes.
If we didn't protest, we didn't cry, and we did everything that we can do. Now we're gonna dance. You know, even if it's a dance like this and a kick to the butt. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving until justice is done. I am tired of these police officers killing our families, our loved ones, and even our dogs. You know, they just killed another guy the other day, George, what's his name, Floyd?
Yeah.
They put his knee in his neck and killed him.
Yeah.
You know, they almost killed me. I was at home in Indianapolis at my son's apartment when the cops bust in saying my son put a naked picture on Facebook and said they were going to kill the mother of the rapist. My son's not a rapist, but they said they were going to beat me, and they put me down like Rodney King, and then broke my leg. And that's how I ended up on Skid Row. And once I came to Skid Row, I saw it was a beautiful place. It's not as bad as they say it is. It's not even close to being bad. Skid Row is a great place. I just want everybody to know that it's a great place to live. I love living here. I love waking up every day outside and not indoors. I love the oxygen. I just love everything about Skid Row. And I'm never leaving. I'm going to be that little old lady at the corner of 5th and San Pedro, sewing for the community. And I'm not leaving.
All right.
Until justice is done. I'm the last one to leave.
Oh, that's
We
good.
love you, Stephanie. We love you. Stay strong.
I love you guys. Mwah. Thank you so much.
If anyone can hear my voice, clap 3 times. If anyone can hear my voice, sing ah 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 ah. Great. Thanks, guys. You know, I came to Skid Row, and it wasn't my idea. It was all part of my life where I was just saying yes to whatever possibilities were out there. Now, I was working for the Colburn School, and which is a conservatory right across from the Broad Museum. And a board member, Bob Bhatia, was also on the board of the Wesley Health Clinic that serves most of Skid Row. Well, anyway, Bob got exposed to what was going on in Skid Row, and Bob said,
We've got to do something. I mean, we are the flagship of musical excellence. We're the Juilliard of Los Angeles, but 6 blocks down the hill is the epicenter of poverty. Now, we've really got to do something. Someone want to do something? Anything. A guitar class? A recorder class? Anything.
and I was the one teacher that said, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't do a lot of community service when I was young. It just wasn't part of my MO.
Motive operandi.
But I've always been very good at just going up to strangers and starting a conversation. So Bob and I walked down the hill. It was in August, about 6 years ago. Down 4th Street all the way and turned right on San Pedro. When we got to Wesley, we shook hands with the development guy and with Al Ballesteros, the CEO.
Chief Executive Officer.
And with a man named Christopher Mack.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
How's it going?
We were exploring all of the possibilities, but Chris was quiet and very cautious, watching the room. Then at some point, Chris engaged and said, "I'll bring the people." And then I said, "I'll bring the music."
That's right. I said, I'll bring the people. And Leeav said, I'll bring the music.
Wesley and Colburn had committed to an 8-week program. Wesley was having a gala at the end of November, so we made that our goal, to sing at the benefit. It was a Cinderella story. The LA Times covered the 8-week process leading up to the gala. They made a great short video on us and an article. The Times identified us as the Wesley Colburn Singers. In 2017, we changed the name to Urban Voices Project.
I was 23 years old. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. The only skill that I had was knowing how to talk to strangers. In those 8 weeks, we ran into arguments. We ran into people who would just walk in and have, in 10 minutes, all of a sudden, they would just walk out and leave. I didn't have the experience in how to create a space that feels welcoming. I mean, really, all I knew how to do was to teach music.
When it got time for the gala, we didn't know what to do about clothes. Chris and I just went to 6 different thrift shops in 2 days looking for black shoes, black pants, black belts. And we went to the YMCA to take showers and change. And we had one member who was trans, and we didn't know how to work out the shower situation.
They won't let me shower.
I'll talk to them.
I'm not going over there. I don't want to shower over there.
We're going to work it out. Just chill a minute. 1 minute, okay?
There wasn't facilities that knew how to serve trans people. And they were personalities, of course.
Dressed and clean, we got the elevator to the 51st floor for the gala, and we performed our hearts out. The crowd cried, and there was until midnight, packing up my gear.
The Colburn board talked to Bob and said,
"Well, this is very nice, but our mission is musical excellence."
They pulled out, and Wesley just followed Colburn's lead.
Sorry.
Really sorry.
So after the gala, the 8 weeks was over. At that point, it was just Chris, Linda Evans, and me, and 2 or 3 other singers.
Now, Chris and I, we looked at each other and said,
if you guys come back next week, Leeav and I will make sure we're here.
If you guys come back next week, Chris and I will make sure that we're here.
And for the next 2.5 years, we just kept showing up every week at the same time. Mondays, 11 a.m.
"Hey, Chris, it's 11:15. Should we just pack it in?"
Let's wait 15 more minutes. 15 minutes is up. It's 11:35.
There were so many weeks when people weren't showing up. We didn't have any systems in place. Everything was DIY.
Do it yourself.
And it got very depressing. We had the high of that first 8 weeks, and then things got really difficult.
If you're committed, you learn. There's always a wrong way or a right way if you're doing something once. But there's no wrong way if you commit to learn and if you commit to keep showing up.
Well, I'm so proud. I've gone from days with nobody showing up to we'll be having like 25 people in our performance choir and another 35 people at the neighborhood sing program. In this community, woohoo! That's a big deal.
You know, I'm a good mediator. I'm a good negotiator. And I don't always fix it. You know, I don't always do it the right way. But it's something I'm drawn to. And I naturally try to mediate. I find myself looking at what's going on and what's not working and asking myself, how do I get this to resolve?
It also means I'm stubborn. But the point is that it's a part of my personality. If something's not working, that doesn't mean we should just give up. It means we need to find out what we have to tweak or twist to get to a different perspective.
When a new person shows up at Urban Voices and they show up again, that makes me feel like, yes, another successful connection. A moment where art won, a moment where music won. And selfishly, when I was able to personally convince someone of something, it takes a lot of energy and positive outlook to make one connection at a time.
Skid Row, man, it's really overwhelming if you think about fixing it all. You know, Christopher Mack, he told me.
Remember, you just focus on one person who's in front of you. There's nobody else that matters.
When I talk about the program to someone, I really try to think about that person as the most important person in that moment. And if that person comes to one event, that was a success.
It's amazing all the high-profile opportunities we've had and continue to have. We sang with the Black Eyed Peas before we had any kind of nonprofit established. We sang with Bootsy Collins. We sang at the mayor's mansion. We sang at Dodger Stadium in front of 20,000 runners to kick off the LA Marathon. And for years, we've been part of Street Symphony's Messiah Project, performing with LA Philharmonic musicians.
I'm going to talk very frankly here. I've seen it affect people very negatively. I've seen people who had outsized expectations while the organization didn't know how to prepare that person for what they were going to go through. I've gone through it personally on both ends.
There's so much baggage that we all have as humans. I mean, one thing that's hard in Skid Row is no matter what baggage you have, being here exasperates it. It makes us all the more vulnerable. It's about the nature of fame and how it affects an artist. Sometimes there hasn't been enough communication, and you could just see people rise all the way up, and then they would fall right off. And it still happens today, even in our choir.
In my own life, there's a level of trust that I'm grateful for. And it might be privilege too. I grew up in a warm family. My parents are together to this day, which feels like winning the lottery. I had a very strong figure in my oldest brother, who is 11 years older than me.
But I also had instability in my life. I dealt with a lot of aggression from my next oldest brother. I'd come home from school and I'd play piano for 3 or 4 hours so that I wouldn't have to do my homework. And it annoyed the shit out of my brother.
Some days when I was playing the piano, he'd come downstairs with a baseball bat and strike me on the back as hard as he could. Shit. He could go from 0 to 10 emotionally in a split second. And there were a lot of days when I wouldn't come home knowing that he was at home with no parent around.
One of my dreams is to resolve my relationship with my brother. We don't talk at all. You know, one day when I have kids, they'll ask who's their uncle. I think about that day when my parents will be gone, and family is a really big part of my life.
My dad's side is Israeli. There are like 250 Sofers. It's a tribe. My mom's side is not as big, but also very close. My mom's brother was a quadriplegic. He lived 1 mile away from us. You know, I grew up knowing that any night of the week I might be called to go help my uncle get out of the shower, get into bed because something went wrong.
My life always had these two poles. A relative who I never could understand, and a relative that I knew I had to be there for unconditionally, even when it was really ugly.
So I guess when I came down here to Skid Row, after never really stepping into anything like this before, the patience that I had to have as a caretaker for my uncle was kicking in, but also the need to continuously come back and search for what it was in my brother that I didn't understand.
It still happens here in Skid Row. People lash out in a way, and sometimes at me. Now, that I can't even begin to understand. As hard as I try, I just can't understand what's going on through other people's heads sometimes. And I don't know if that's the big quest for me to understand, or if the bigger quest is for me to understand how to be okay with not understanding. Take it away, Leeav.
Wow.
Hi.
Thank you, Iron.
Love
That
you
was really
guys.
beautiful, and I have goosebumps. And it's funny because as every speaker gets to go, I have more time to think about what I'm going to say, and then I get here and I'm like, meh. So I will say this: that it's funny how you mentioned that, like the teacher thing. I know I could teach music, but I have been taught by so much more, by so many of you guys right here in this screen. And almost every single person in here that I've met you, everyone that I've met, I mean, like has been a teacher to me in humanity. And I think that's something that I did not know how to come into Skid Row to teach. That's what Skid Row taught me. It was taught to me by Christopher Mack, is taught to me by people of here that I've literally thought of as mentors, like John and Henriette and Hike and Charles and all the leaders of the organizations around LA that's here right now. Stephanie, you've been a mentor to me in the white tent. And I just feel like I've been really, I couldn't actually even believe I'm gonna be someone that got honored in the same lineup as these people who I consider my teachers in humanity and in understanding Skid Row and the dynamics of our fight for a voice. And then I'm taught by my members of my own program, because like if you guys came to one of our classes, like in workshops, what we do is we just do a lot of like singing, but also like songwriting, like live songwriting experiences. And so they come in and they feed us, and I'm gonna just say be selfish, they feed me their intentions of the day, their intentions of the week, and their intentions they've had of their whole lives. And then we put it into song, and all of a sudden I'm once again taught by the people that are coming in. I can hand them a little bit of music, but they're the ones that teach my soul. And one of the songs that's become, in my opinion, an anthem of Skid Row is words that came from them. It was, I've got the patience to inhale, exhale. I've got the energy to sing. I've got the strength to keep on going so I can rise again and rise again. And another song that came out of Urban Voices that was just the most simplest thing in the world was just, come on, sing. Something that we debuted, actually, a song we debuted at the Skid Row Artist Festival. And it involved everybody's voice. And so I guess I'll finish by just saying, you know, I love that you incorporated the thing I've learned from my tutors, music tutors, the listen louder than you sing. But I also have to say that in light of everything that's going on this week and for years, I'm gonna say that it's time for everyone else to listen to the voice of Skid Row and to the voice of the oppressed. And I think listen louder than you sing is no longer, in that context, is not my instruction. Instead, just sing as loud as you possibly can. And don't let anybody make that voice shrink. Fortissimo, as they say in music. And I just want to say a quick thank you again to Chris and my partners, Kate and Nicole, who helped run the program with me, and all of you UV peers here, like Tom and Marilyn and Iron and Danny. You've been a mentor to me. I just have to acknowledge you all. And you know, John and Henriette, thank you so much, really, for involving me. and helping facilitate this honor for myself and all the other honorees today.
My name is Gary Blasi. Both my mother and my father's families were farmers in Kansas. They were too poor to be Okies. They couldn't come to California because they didn't have a car.
I wasn't interested in the law. My father worked in the oil fields, and the lawyers I interacted with, they were all thieves. They sold out their clients, took their money.
I went to graduate school and I decided I didn't want to be a professor. I came out here hoping to connect with the woman I had my eye on. I ran out of money. I ran out of employment. I got a job working from midnight to 8 in the old produce district, squeezing oranges for a little enterprise that made fresh orange juice for fancy hotels.
I landed in Echo Park on a block where there was a food co-op and a daycare center. And people were trying to organize their community.
2 or 3 of them were lawyers, and they were about to open the Echo Park Community Law Office. I was at the food co-op, and the guy in front of me, also a grad student dropout, asked,
Do you want to be a lawyer?
Not really. I've already got 19 years of school.
It's California. You don't have to go to school.
Until around 1870, everybody became a lawyer by being an apprentice. You can still do it in California. It's called reading the law.
I was working all night, so I had my days free. I got hooked on it because the lawyers were doing really good stuff. They had an open door policy. We helped with criminal defense, divorce, anything people needed. They were also heavily involved in defending political people against grand jury investigations of the anti-war movement.
I started volunteering and studying law in 1971. Eventually, I quit my orange juice job. I worked there for a year and a half, and every night I stole 5 gallons of orange juice and took it to the daycare center. My employee left me a nice note saying, "You have been a really good employee, so feel free to take a gallon of orange juice on your way out. Bye." No, just playing.
At the law firm, I was promoted from receptionist to partner. A pretty good trajectory. A lot of people came in with eviction cases. There were so many eviction cases that the legal aid wouldn't represent anybody. They'd come in and say,
I went to the legal aid and they gave me these papers. Can you help me fill them out?
I got my bar card in 1976. And after that, I specialized in representing tenants, fighting evictions, and suing slumlords. I filed some of the very first court cases filed on behalf of tenants against slumlords.
People were doing what common sense told them. If the landlord won't deal with
cockroaches,
the rats,
no hot water,
no heat,
the rats,
no heat,
cockroaches, and I'm not going to pay the rent.
I'm not going to pay my rent.
Well, I'm not going to pay the rent.
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 Well, I'm not going to pay the rent.
But withholding rent, now that wasn't a defense. I mean, everybody has to pay their money. In 1974, it became a defense. And I started representing the tenants with habitability cases. And I got a sense of just how really poor people were living.
We sued the city attorney for not enforcing the rent control law and took on the redevelopment agency, which was taking money intended for poor people and giving it to doctors and lawyers to invest in housing.
When I came, the only 2 skyscrapers were those 2 black towers, the Bank of America and Arco. None of this other crap existed.
In 1978, I started working at Legal Aid, representing a lot of Skid Row tenants and the hotels that were being taken over at the time. They were evicting people to do the rehabs, and we represented them. The first big case was the El Rey Hotel. Dick Osumi, a lawyer in my office, he was the one who was representing the tenants, and they were clearing them out to make room for the Weingart Center.
Lots of people were being displaced. and they really didn't have any defense. But Dick Osumi renegotiated relocation money for the people in the El Rey. It was a lot better than they would have gotten otherwise.
Not many lawyers like litigation. I like litigation because at legal aid, you could sue any bad guy I wanted and nobody would stop me. I could go to an apartment building that they were targeting to empty, and I'd tell the tenants what was going on and help them form an organization so that I could represent them. Part of being a legal aid lawyer was community organizing, and we had really good organizers on staff.
There were so many evictions that in 1983, Dick Osami, Barbara Blanco, and I created Legal Aid's Eviction Defense Center.
I bought the first computer that Legal Aid ever owned. It was a Xerox 820. It cost us $1,500. Today, a $400 computer you can buy at Costco has 15 million times more power.
But it did word processing. In the first year, the Eviction Defense Center helped 10,000 clients with the paperwork and advice, and we took 500 of the strongest cases to trial.
Clients who lost their cases started coming back to us saying,
I'm sleeping in my car with my kids. Is there some kind of shelter or some place that'll take us in?
We put together a group to find all the shelter in LA County, the Basic Shelter Working Group. We developed a list, and then we found out that every place on the list was full all the time.
I got permission to leave the Eviction Defense Center and create the Homeless Litigation Unit to work for people who had no housing versus shitty housing.
The homeless litigation team included lawyers from Mental Aid and the Western Center on Law and Poverty, San Fernando Valley Legal Aid, and Nancy Minty and Bob Jacobs of the original Inner City Law Center, and Jim Price with Mental Health Advocate Services. We tried to get a handle on what was going on.
I knew something about welfare, but a colleague informed me.
In California, people have the right to get general relief. Statute Section 17,000 of the California Welfare Institution Code says the county should help everybody who can otherwise find a way to survive.
It looked to me like homelessness is illegal.
I began traveling to other team members' offices when they had a GR client coming in. This young single woman had been applying for GR, and every time she went into the office, they said,
We already handled our quote today. You have to come back next Monday.
She had gone there 6 consecutive Mondays and she was on the verge of killing herself. Literally.
I took her case, and we went down to the office and said, we're not leaving until you process her application. And they did. And she got $221.
which may sound like a familiar number, but at the time, $221 could get you the worst room on Skid Row for $50 a week. And you got some food stamps, and there was the hippie kitchen, so you could survive barely.
So I became a GR litigator. Over the next few years, our team filed 8 or 9 class actions against the county on behalf of people who were trying to get GR and could not.
Jay Blair was this Anglo guy who lived at the King Eddie, a segregated place. Well, Jay agreed to become the lead plaintiff to sue to get the GR amount raised. We got it raised from $221 to $312 with the settlement of that lawsuit. 3 years later, we sued them again because $312 is not enough. We got a settlement of $346 with an inflation adjustment, which means it would now be $800.
But we in the city sued the county about the general relief program. The county insisted that the grant amount case and the city's case settle at the same time.
The city versus county case came about because the city started doing sweeps of encampments on Skid Row.
Police Chief Daryl Gates had cops count everybody they saw on one shift, and that was 800. His position was,
there's only 800 of them. Arrest them all. It's easy.
When they did that, we sued the city. Grace Davis was the deputy mayor. She was a decent person. She said,
"Why are you suing us? Why don't you sue the county?"
"We are suing the county. Why don't you sue the county?"
We had some conversations with the mayor's office, and they agreed to join our suit. They set aside $500,000 for experts and computer people to help us sue the county.
We did 90% of the work. It was probably the biggest welfare case ever done in this country. We got a duplicate copy of the county's entire computer file and put it into IBM format. At the end of the process, we knew more about GR than they did because they didn't have the statistics. People, we did.
The argument of city versus county was that they had erected barriers in the application process. They were so complicated that only 1/3 of the eligible people made it through.
And they erected more barriers designed to get people off of GR. We discovered that the welfare department had a research and development arm with the sole goal of figuring out how to screw people.
How can we cut the people off the road?
Hey, let's send out 1,000 letters with a postcard in it to a random set of people on GR. And the letter will say, if you want to stay on GR, just send us the enclosed postcard.
10% of the people didn't return the postcards. They cut them off. And then they made that part of the process for everyone on GR. It became the CA7 form. They were bad people who knew what they were doing.
Mark Rosenbaum of the ACLU and I negotiated directly with the Board of Supervisors, not the bureaucrats. We had meetings with Supervisor Ed Edelman, and then the other supervisors, and made a deal. They approved a settlement of $346.
But later, we found out that while we were talking to them, their lobbyists were in Sacramento writing a law that said, all settlements of the following kind are null and void.
It describes settlements of which there were 2 in the universe. There was our case, which affected 40,000 people, and one case in Humboldt County that affected 30 people, just to prove how evil these motherfuckers were. That's a legal term.
They said, from now on, the maximum liability for the county general assistants in any county in California forever is an amount equivalent to 64% of the poverty level established in 1991. Now you wonder, why 64%? Well, that's because 64% of the poverty level calculates to be exactly $221.
They wanted to go back to the exact dollar amount before we sued them. That was just to punish us. It was our fault for not thinking they would be so evil.
Congratulations, Mr. Blasi. I'd like to hand the floor over to you.
Well, I have to say, I am just honored to be on this list of people, extraordinary people, like I said before. And I want to especially, I thank Henriette and John for having kept LAPD going all these years. John was a paralegal working with the homeless litigation team that we just referred to. And actually, I think at least 3 members of the homeless litigation team are on the audience. And I just was going through an old LA Times thing for some research I'm doing, and I came across a picture of all of us looking much younger and thinner. That really brought back some memories. The other thing is that it's really easy to get discouraged. If you look at the big picture is discouraging. I spent the last month trying to figure out how many evictions are coming and how many more people are going to lose their housing. And then all the events that have been happening this week, and that, you know, there's nothing new except a 17-year-old had a video camera and captured that. But we have come a long ways in some ways, but the Civil War never really got settled, I'm afraid. So on the big front, it's pretty discouraging sometimes. But when you start talking about individual people and communities and neighborhoods, even neighborhoods, and I won't say even neighborhoods, but especially neighborhoods like Skid Row, where people have come together because they have something to defend. And there's so much love and connection among people in Skid Row that frankly I don't see in other neighborhoods that I'm in. So I've always thought in some ways, despite all the troubles, Skid Row was a real blessing and a source of inspiration to people across the city if, as I say, the people would pay attention. And increasingly they are, and it's so great to see young artists especially and folks engaging with people in Skid Row and helping learn and teach from that experience. So thank you again, and I love the portrait. It's going to be my new Facebook portrait, I think.